and gentlemen, hello and welcome to our English news edition coming to you from Canal, Algérie. I'm your host, Maysa Doumaz. To the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, receives the President of the Mustaqbal Front, Abdelaziz Bel'Eid, and the former Minister and political activist, Abdelaziz Rahabi. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, extends condolences to the family of the late Mohammed Khadim, a policeman killed in Ghilizan while accomplishing his duties. The Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Lieutenant General Saeed Shengriha, received the Director General of the NATO International Staff, Hans-Werner Wehrmann, on a two-day visit to Algeria. The assassination of the Palestinian journalist Shireen Abu Akleh by the Zionist forces is still arousing a tidal wave of condemnation. Those were today's headlines. First in our news, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, received on Wednesday the President of the Mustaqbal Front Party, Abdelaziz Bel'Eid. The audience took place in the presence of the Principal Private Secretary of the Presidency, Abdelaziz Khalaf. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, also received the former minister and politician Abdelaziz Rahabi. The audience took place in the presence of the Principal Private Secretary of the Presidency, Abdelaziz Khalaf. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, extended his sincere condolences to the family of the policeman Mohammed Khadim, who passed away in Ghilizan province while accomplishing his duties. The President of the Republic also extended his condolences to the police corps, praying Allah Almighty to welcome the deceased into his vast paradise. For his part, the Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Lieutenant General Saeed Shengriha, presented his sincere condolences to the family of the late and to the employees of the General Directorate of the National Security, praying Allah Almighty to welcome him into his vast paradise. To Allah we belong, and to him we shall return. The Speaker of the National People's Assembly, Ibrahim Boughali, was received in Abuja, Nigeria, by the Speaker of the Assembly of Representatives of Nigeria on the sidelines of the Conference of Speakers of African Parliaments. Ibrahim Boughali also met his Ghanaian counterpart, the Vice President of the Parliament of Malawi, his Cameroonian counterpart, the First Secretary of the National Assembly of Senegal, and his counterpart from Djibouti, Mohammed Ali Houmed. The Prime Minister, Ayman bin Abdurrahman, chaired a cabinet meeting that examined the following points. In the interior sector, a presentation was centered on the implementation of the recommendations of the last government meeting was made. It is worth noting that this program was adhered within the framework of the implementation of the government's action plan in the field of digitizing state priority activity, land surveying and real estate preservation. In the field of energy transition and renewable energies, the government listened to a presentation of the realization of photovoltaic power plants with a capacity of 1,000 megawatts. An invitation was also addressed to the investors to complete the mentioned power stations. Following the death of the Palestinian journalist and Al Jazeera correspondent Shireen Abu Akleh by the brutal Zionist occupation forces, the Governmental Communication Department of the Presidency of the Republic extended its sincere condolences to the family of the deceased and to the Palestinian people, as well as Al Jazeera channel staff. The Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Lieutenant General Saeed Shengriha, received on Wednesday the Director General of the NATO International Military Staff, Hans-Werner Wehrmann, on a two-day visit to Algeria. More details with Daniel Bahri.
The ceremony began with a salute to the national flag and a military salute addressed to the head of the visiting delegation by detachments of various forces of the National People's Army. The ceremony was attended by force commanders, heads of departments and central directors of the Ministry of National Defense and High Command of the AMP, as well as members of NATO military delegation. After that, the Lieutenant General Said Shangriha, Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, underlined that this visit will allow both sides to better identify the prevailing security challenges and to build a common vision, able to further protect the region from dangers of insecurity, affirming that Algeria has always supported the initiatives of the international community in line with the international law and the UN decisions. Said Shangriha said that this visit reflects the interest granted by NATO to our region and demonstrates the importance that this organization gives to the efforts made at regional level in the field of security and stability of the countries of the southern shore of the Mediterranean. He added that the mutual understanding of current issues will enable both parties to better understand the security challenges facing these countries and which will certainly lead to the construction of a common vision capable to further protecting our region from the division and insecurity threats. Said Shangriha also assured that Algeria has always supported initiatives of international community meant to establish political stability in compliance with international law and UN decisions. The Lieutenant General also assured that Algeria, despite the policy of neutrality that it adopts on international level and its concern to exclude itself from any tension, will continue to cooperate with all its partners within the framework of its national interests and its immutable principles. In return, and while condemning the policy of double standards which the international community is currently employing in dealing with the issue of oppressed peoples, Algeria will continue, like the other states of the world, to cooperate with its allies and its partners within the framework of its national interests and its mutable principles. Stability in the region by providing aid and assistance in various areas to neighboring countries while supporting them in resolving their security situation. At the end, the Director General of the International Military Staff of NATO signed the National People's Army General Staff Guest Book.
The 8th edition of the African Forum kicked off on Wednesday with the participation of more than 35 countries. This forum will highlight Algeria's potentialities, making it a real commercial gate to African story. By Laetitia Sidqawi.
Africa the Future is the slogan of this important forum held with the aim to create partnership opportunities between the participating countries. Algeria, hub of the African continent, is of an increasing interest to foreign investors, especially African investors. Its challenge to conquer foreign markets and attract new investments. Through this seminar, I believe many agreements will be signed, especially with the Arab Authority for Agricultural Investment and Development and with the African Development Bank to attract important investments of $500 million. Everything we saw today was very encouraging. The potential is enormous. I hope that these forums are organized regularly. When I go back to the African Union, I will share my experience regarding the existing potentials, especially in trade. Creating business opportunities is the goal sought through this 2-day forum. On the sidelines of this forum, an exhibition of Algerian and foreign economic companies was organized. We participated in this event to introduce our product to African clients and countries with the goal to enter African market. Bilateral meetings and many workshops were held among the participating countries in order to attract new investment opportunities.
The Minister of Communication, Mohamed Bouslimani, received the General Director of the African Broadcasting Union of the African Exchange Center, Gregoire Angaka. The two parties discussed ways and means of strengthening cooperation in the field of program exchange. They also talked about the major sporting events in the African continent. 2 years after its launch, 30 provinces across the country embarked on the rapeseed cultivation sector. These seeds are used in the production of alternative oils as well as cattle feeds. More details with Manal Ammari.
The revival of rapeseed cultivation is in its second year in Algeria, with the Technical Institute for Field Crops at its head, aiming to sow about 3,000 acres at the beginning.
La culture de colza, c'est une culture stratégique dont
Rapeseed cultivation is strategic. Our program started in the year 2020-2021 in Buira province. Several provinces of the country also embarked on this new sector, since Algeria's needs in oilseeds are always increasing. Encouraging this cultivation will without a doubt reduce imports. An example is this farm located in Ain Bassam municipality, run by Ahmed, who used to be a wheat farmer. Rapeseeds are our first experiment, and we hope that this will be a success. We have to wait for the assessment to be made after the harvest. This crop was introduced last year with 124 hectares as a start. This year we expanded the area and we've now reached 694 hectares. We hope to reach 10 to 15,000 hectares by 2025 or 2030 in Buira province. Can farmers be persuaded to switch to rapeseed cultivation when cereal cultivation can produce a better yield per hectare and therefore a better income?
Within the dynamic of the ongoing efforts in the fight against terrorism and organized crimes, units and detachments of the National People's Army carried out several operations which led to quality results that reflect the high professionalism, vigilance and permanent availability of our armed forces across the national territory. Manal Ammari once again.
Within the framework of the fight against terrorism, detachments of the National People's Army arrested 6 support elements to terrorist groups in distinct operations throughout the national territory. As part of the fight against organized crime and in continuity of intense efforts aiming to thwart the scourge of drug trafficking in our country, combined detachments of the National People's Army in coordination with various security services at the level of the 2nd and 3rd military regions, arrested 15 drug traffickers and thwarted attempts to introduce quantities of drugs across our borders with Morocco, amounting to 3 quintals and 88 kilograms of cannabis, while 19 other drug traffickers were arrested with 154 kilograms of the same substance in their possession, as well as 73,886 psychotropic tablets during various operations carried out throughout other military regions. Furthermore, detachments of the National People's Army intercepted in Tamanrasset, Borj Baji Mukhtar, in Gizam and Janet provinces 178 individuals and seized 15 vehicles, 221 generators, 123 jackhammers, quantities of explosives, detonation tools and equipments used in illicit gold mining operations, while 8 other individuals were apprehended and 1 Kalashnikov-type submachine gun, 6 shotguns, 2 automatic guns, 33,000 tobacco packets, and 10,500 units of various beverages were seized in Inaminas, El Wed, Biskra, Batna, and Tamanrasset provinces. Similarly, the border guards thwarted attempts to smuggle quantities of fuel amounting to 6,327 liters into Bissa, At-Taraf, and Suqahras provinces. In another context, Coast Guards thwarted at the level of our national borders illegal immigration attempts and proceeded to saving 172 individuals on board of craft-built boats, while 86 illegal immigrants of different nationalities were arrested throughout the national territory.
The assassination of the journalist Shireen Abu Aqla, one of the best journalists of Al Jazeera News channel, buried on Wednesday, aroused a tidal wave of condemnation, calling for justice to be made. More details with Rania Al-Bahri.
The journalist that covered this morning the Zionist incursion into Jenin sector became a few moments later the event that shook the whole world. Shireen Abu Aqla, 51, senior reporter for the Qatari TV channel Al Jazeera, couldn't finish her last report. One of the most prominent Palestinian voices is gone by the criminal hand of a Zionist sniper. Thousands of Palestinians between Muslims and Christians paid their last respects to Shireen Abu Akleh and demanded justice. Faced with this crime, international regional organizations called today for an immediate investigation into the assassination of the journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. The Arab League holds the occupation authorities fully responsible for this heinous crime, calling for international responsibility and the persecution of its perpetrators before the competent international courts for war crimes and grave violations for the international law. On their side, the official spokesperson of the European Union for the Middle East and North Africa are calling for an independent and immediate inquiry. In a tweet, he said he was shocked by the murder of the journalist Shireen Abu Akleh while she was doing her job covering the Zionist incursion in Jenin, and called for an investigation on the assassination of the journalist Abu Akleh and that her killer be brought to justice, adding that journalists must never be targeted.
A heinous crime which the Palestinian presidency has condemned. Barbarism, which is a part of the occupation policy, targeting journalists to hide the truth and the committed crimes. Leticia Sidqawi tells us more.
On the cold floor lies down Shireen Abu Akleh's lifeless body, the reporter of the Qatari TV channel Al Jazeera for more than 25 years, a famous journalist that covered the clashes in Jenin. Even though she was wearing a protection helmet and a bulletproof vest with the word press written clearly. The witnesses affirmed that the reporter of Al Jazeera was shot dead early Wednesday with a bullet to the head, shot by a sniper despite the fact that she was surrounded by other journalists in a calm area. This is what her covered under the shock colleague that we see next to her in these images revealed. I was telling my colleague, let's move from here. He told me, no, let's stop here so they can see that we are press. Then we can move onwards. We then moved as a group facing the occupation, and only when we were sure they saw we are journalists that we moved away. When we reached a tight place that was hard to leave, that they started shooting. If they didn't have the intention to kill us, they would have at least fired warning shots. It clearly is an assassination.
كان على الأقل أطلقوا النار قبل وصولنا للمنطقة المحاصرة أو المنطقة.
أنا جيت على البنت لقيتها متصاوبة.
When I came, I saw that she was shot, and when I tried to help her, they didn't stop shooting. And in a record time, Shireen was gone. Another journalist, Ali Al-Samoudi, was injured during the skirmishes. He accuses the occupying army of firing shots on journalists. For the Qatari channel, the reporter was murdered with cold blood by the Zionist forces. It denounces an assassination that violates the international laws and norms. It also condemnates a horrendous crime that intended to stop the media from doing its mission, has stated the Qatari channel, calling on the international community to hold the occupying forces responsible to have intentionally targeted and shot Shireen. It is worth recalling that Shireen Abu Akleh's assassination comes a year after the destruction of the Jalak Tower, where the offices of the Qatari channel were based in Gaza Strip, with an airstrike from the occupation. It also comes 4 days ahead of the commemoration of Nakba, or the Palestinian catastrophe, where hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were driven out of their land.
The second edition of the International Film Festival of Imedgassen in Batna was launched. This movie's event will revive the cinema industry in Algeria that was severely hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Story by Najah Tayyar.
29 movies from 24 countries are competing, while other 5 movies by Algerian movie directors would be projected out of competition in the international contest of Best Short Film in its second edition of the International Festival of Imedgassen in Batna province. Arab countries' films plus Algeria's are racing for winning, and among other things there are Best Script and Best Film Editing prizes as well. Many films are competing for the Best Script and Best Film Editing awards. The Algerian cinema would absolutely have days of joy to come. We believe in the art of Algeria. We participate in the festival to highlight the value of the Algerian people. Since the beginning of the online registrations, the Festival Commissioner had received more than 2283 applications of movies to select finally 29 movies representing 25 countries in the final stage of the competition. We are nearing the 60th anniversary of Algeria's independence, and this event takes place in the archaeological and the historical province that marked culture via Timgad International Festival, and the current festival is an added value thanks to Lamasa Association. Moreover, the organizers have planned workshops for the benefit of students who will have the opportunity to get closer to film directors and widen their knowledge in the movie making.
That was it for our news edition. Thanks for tuning in to our program. Good night.